So I can see Maria Gritty. Hi.
You just said that.
Sister Constance.
That's right. That's what I went through.
How's that?
Right.
Okay, are we good, Glenn?
Yeah, I was gonna log in just to double check, but it looks good on our end.
Okay, we're good. All right, it is now 7:04, so I call to order a regular meeting of the City of Helotes Economic Development Corporation. It is Wednesday, February the 15th, 2023. We have all board directors present, so we do have quorum. So we'll move on to our open session. So citizens to be heard. Do we have any citizens to be heard?
No, Mr. President.
Okay, so with that, we'll go ahead and close our open session and we'll move on to our consent agenda items number 3 through 5. All consent agenda items listed below are considered routine by EDC staff and are intended to be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless the director requests it, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in its normal sequence on the agenda. Do we have any requests to move any of the consent agenda items? Okay. Being that none of them are going to be removed, I will entertain a motion for approval of consent agenda items 3 through 5 as written.
Mr. President, I move we approve consent agenda items 3 through 5 as written.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say nay. So ayes have it. Motion passes. So we'll move on to our committee reports. So we'll go ahead and move into our executive committee, which I don't believe we had a separate meeting between our last one. The only update that I have is we did have a separate meeting with the mayor. We have a monthly meeting that we go through just different EDC items, which one of them actually will show up here in the individual consideration. But I don't think we have any other updates from the executive committee. Any updates from the finance committee? Nope. Okay.
No, just all expenditures were approved.
Okay, perfect. So we'll go ahead and move off committee reports and we'll go into our items for individual consideration. So on these items, most of them are discussion and action. So when anybody makes a motion, it's either a motion for approval or denial of the items. So as written, and they can be amended obviously in that motion. So we'll move on to number 8, discussion of and action on sponsoring the Helotes Carnival Festival produced by the Helotes Festival Association. So presentation by staff.
So this item, we actually approved for the first time last year as a sponsorship. And what the board had decided to move forward with was doing one of the rodeo arena signs, doing the 2 of the park benches, and then both the video to be aired each night, and as well as a voice recognition each night by the announcer during the rodeo. So that package was $3,500. This year, obviously, the Festival Association has reached out asking if we would continue our support. And say most of those items, like the park bench and the rodeo arena sign, those stay year-round on the property. So anytime they do special events on the weekend, that information is still there and still being seen by the public. We may have to actually look at redoing the graphics for the park benches, I think, because we changed our logo after we approved it last time, but I will double check with the association. So I was seeking approval to do the same thing this year.
Okay. So the action that we are is for approval of the expenditure of $3,500 for support of Helotes Carnival. So I will now entertain a motion for discussion and action of approval on that item. Now remember, even if we have a motion and we have after discussion, the motion can be amended, or if everybody's not in favor of the approval, obviously you can vote nay on that motion. So, so do I have a motion for?
I move that we discuss and move forward with approval of the $3,500 expenditure to support the Festival Association.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, so we have a motion and second, so now it's open for discussion. Jeff, motion maker?
No.
Nope.
Okay, Greg, anything?
Is there anything additional that we're missing on this?
There are other opportunities for sponsorship out there.
Things that stay year-round is what I'm thinking.
Right. I think, to my knowledge, the benches are probably the biggest item that stays year-round. Even the rodeo arena is not necessarily utilized by every event. And those benches are put out throughout the park.
How about the website?
Thank you. I did leave that off. Our logo is on their website. That is hyperlinked.
And that is year-round?
Yes, sir. That is year-round.
How many benches do we have?
Right now, we have 2, I believe.
And where are they located?
On the ground.
They are
The front one's in the back.
they're semi-random. I know one of them last year was, if you know where the Binky Pavilion is, I would call that the main pavilion. Probably the second row in, we were right on the end cap. So as people are walking to the pavilion, our bench was right there. So that was a great placement. I'm not 100%, I think the second one was where where HEB toward the front, where they had the piggy races or something. I think that's where the second one was located.
John, any questions, discussion?
No, I definitely think we should support this.
Okay. Melody?
Agree, we should support it.
Joe?
If we do, assuming we need to change our logo, is that expense on them or is it expense on us?
It has been on them. It's part of the sponsorship.
I
Okay.
guess if somebody was coming in as a new sponsor, they would obviously have to
Yes.
pay to do it, so I would think we get a redo, even if it is the new logo, at least it freshen up. A year out in the sun probably,
That was my thought too.
yeah, probably
Yeah.
beats it up
We'll
a
have
little bit,
the
so.
new logo, and I guess that's the Visit Helotes. Correct. Okay.
Good. I have no input on it. I have seen the bench. I can't remember exactly where it was. It's been a while since I've been out to the fairgrounds, but it's nice.
Someone was sitting on it last time I went out, so I'm like, yeah.
Did you tell them get off?
That's for
Go and
looks.
sit on that bench. Get over there. Cover up our logo. Okay. So with that, we have a motion and a second for approval of the expenditure of $3,500 for sponsorship. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it, so motion passes. All right, so the second item is also an action on, so the discussion of an action on an application made by Dominion Commercial Management LLC to approve a grant reimbursement request under the Retailer and Commercial Tenant Improvement Incentive Program. Glenn, you are up.
Oh, okay. So I want to remind everyone that we are now on our third iteration of the Retailer and Tenant Improvement Grant currently. So this particular applicant applied during the first version. So he applied September 26, 2022. I have attached the original program as background documentation, kind of highlighted the areas that I think are pertinent to the request. The applicant just turned in the signature page, which is page 7 of the application, I guess 6 and 7, but did not turn in any of the background documentations. So that would include a narrative description of the project scope, construction schedule, cost estimates, renderings, photos, and projected budget. None of those items were provided. I emailed the applicant on the 26th of September to notify him that the application would not be forwarded to the board for consideration until all required documentation were submitted. I did not receive the documents until January 16th. And that's honestly around the time that the applicant received a certificate of occupancy, so that meaning the project had been completed. My opinion, I thought it should be denied. The applicant asked that this be brought to the board for consideration because he didn't feel that that the lack of documentation would make a difference in the approval of the grant request. So that's kind of why it's on the agenda tonight. So some of those items that I highlighted in the original packet, the applicant who applies for funding after commencing improvements are ineligible. So to me, the question is, when do you consider receiving an application? Do you consider an incomplete as submittal, or does it have to be complete? I think that could be one question. Obviously, it was on first come, first serve. Not all funding had been exhausted, so there is still funds available. But the next part is only completed applications that include all required submittal documents will be forwarded to the board of directors for review. And the last bit was approved applicants by the board of directors would enter into an agreement. Work may begin after the agreement has been executed. So since the application was not forwarded to the board, since it was incomplete, there was no agreement ever executed. And obviously work had already been started and completed. So that would be my brief report of the
Okay.
situation.
This is not to go into discussion, but just for clarification. The application is complete now,
Correct.
and the amount they're requesting is 19,350? That what we're acting on?
That is correct.
Okay.
And that is based on the scoring matrix that was established in the first program. Going through it, I did include that on page 4 of the application. The applicant would have received 1 point since it is an office, 0 points for number 2 because it was a new space, not a vacant space. Item 3, it created 1 to 5 employees, so it gets 1 point. Item 4, the sales tax gets 0. It is part of the space was for an attorney, part of the space is for a tax consultant. And then item 5 on the application of a fully executed lease, it is owner occupied, so I gave 2 points for that. So they get 4 points, so they do meet the minimum, or would have met the minimum qualifications to receive up to $15 per square foot. And that's how I came up with the 19,350.
My question is, why did they not submit all? What was the reasoning for them not submitting, or what reasoning they gave you, and how many times that did you have to go and ask for that information?
I only reached out to the applicant once,
Okay.
requesting the information. I do know in other conversations that was at least done in writing in an email. There are other conversations saying that we need the background documentation, at the very least, having a budget and a scope of work, because it's impossible to know without that whether you would even be eligible for reimbursement. But the applicant, to me, just stated that he didn't feel there was a need to submit the documentation ahead of time because the project wouldn't be considered until it was complete, was his assumption. But that isn't
But that's not what
how the program is
yeah.
structured. So he did have the application ahead of time. He had a paper application. He didn't do the online application.
I guess to me, I feel like an application, it's not an application until all the documentation is provided and complete. In any grant that we've ever written, been part of, and then also on the city side, when you do permits or whatever else, till all that, it's not a complete application.
Right. I have a question on, it looks like there's 3 different entities involved. There's the individual, there's Dominion Commercial Management, who appears to be the building owner,
Who is the individual?
who's paying for it, and then there's somebody else who's occupying it. I understand all 3 of them tie back to the same individual, but
2 of them do.
gotcha.
And I say 2 of them do because the
Attorney.
Part of the improvements was done for Paul Owens.
Right.
So 330 square feet was Paul Owens. The balance of the square footage was for the tax consultant. Yes, who owns the property?
Okay, so that was taken into account in that 19,000 figure, the
Yes.
part that is for
The-
another tenant, because really this is a tenant grant, not a building owner's grant for them to get reimbursement for things, because I know there's other folks in the city who are building, who will be owner occupying and or having other lease space that we want to make sure we're clear on what we're doing here so that there's not confusion that if you own the building, you can get this grant too. It's a tenant grant.
It is a tenant grant. The tenant can, or an owner can apply if they are owner occupied as a
Right.
tenant. If they just own the building, they cannot apply.
Gotcha. Yeah, they're just leasing it out, just owning the building, leasing it to whoever.
Right.
That tenant now can,
Yes, sir.
but yes.
So Paul Owens' square footage was pulled out of that 19,000 figure.
That is included in that 19,000.
So I would feel that needs to come out. If approved, that would need to come out because that is
The tenant,
the tenant. That's Paul Owens' space that
Right.
he's getting reimbursed for in
I
that
gotcha.
case. So if it is approved for the owner occupied space, that's the part that needs to be reimbursed on, would be my opinion.
yeah. Because in the example of a tenant improvement, that the tenant actually puts in the application, right? Okay. All right, so
I
good
agree.
question. So I want to kind of, I guess by clarification of rules on this, I know this is hard information to work off of without the discussion, but just so we can really get it out there, open for discussion, and we can talk it out here. I need a motion for action and discussion and action on it. Now, again, just because it opens up for a certain action doesn't mean that that's what ends up being the final, or even the motion is final. So with that, do I have a motion?
I move that we discuss and take action on this application.
One second.
Okay, so now we got it open. So,
And I will recuse myself since I'm actively in the tenant improvement grant program.
all right, very good. Thanks, Sean. All right, so now we got it open. So now let's discuss. Jeff, let's start where you're in.
Okay, so Glenn, let me make sure that I'm understanding this correctly.
Okay.
This was submitted in September.
Yes, sir.
The rules at the time that it was submitted in September stated that it must be approved by the board before any construction was started, correct?
Sir. Yes.
And it's just now coming to us for approval, and we're in February. And the construction's been completed.
That is correct. Everything was submitted January 16th, but yes.
But construction has already started and been completed,
Yes, sir.
but the rules at the time that it was submitted stated that it had to be approved before any construction started.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Just want to make sure that I'm understanding that correct.
So you could look at this in two ways, I see it as. Either the application was on the initial date, or the application was when he turned everything in and that became the application.
Right.
But that's something that I think needed to be clarified, you know what I mean? On that. where
And let me
you can say-
clarify that, even if so that was another complicating factor. If we do consider January 16th as the application date, the program in the place at that time requires the applicant to submit before work is completed. I have to approve it and then they can start work. It was already completed.
So no matter what,
So to me, no matter what scenario
they started
could
working.
invalidate.
Because the way it is currently that we adjusted it last month is, once it's all submitted and you've received it and signed off on it, then they can start construction
Correct.
without board approval
Correct.
at that time. But there's no guarantee the board will approve it.
Correct.
But either way, they've completed the work prior to.
In this
submittal
case,
even to
yes.
you.
Yes, in this case, yes.
So one issue I see is they have documentation, reimbursement will only be on the project finalized upon receipt and proof of payment. He's got some checks in there to a GC, then it also goes on and it needs to be signed by the contractor and vendors. And I don't see any vendors on here. It's just a list of things that were done. But I don't see any names of any other companies with the exception of theirs.
So, apologies for this not having page numbers on it. The one page with a lot of numbers and, starts off with form survey, lot stakes, et cetera. That's just a budget. And it shows you the project was anticipated to cost approximately $124,000.
But I'm not seeing a contractual agreement between him
Correct.
and a GC.
Correct.
All you're seeing is checks.
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 So there's no invoices or anything.
No invoices, there's no proof that the money actually went there.
Right.
I know that it did.
Yeah,
I know
I
that
mean-
it did, but it's part of what we're saying we need.
Right.
A bank ledger. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a hard one.
Yeah, it is, yeah. My thoughts, and I'm with you on that, Greg, is I do think there needs to be a level of, I'd hate for there to be some vendor that's unpaid in all this, and we're giving out money that we're not sure is gonna get to that vendor. And it seems like that level that we have there in the rules, ensures that, with the vendors having a sign off. So to me, it's still kind of an incomplete application. So, so taking action on an incomplete application, I don't think we can actually approve or deny it. All we can say is incomplete. I mean, I guess right now, the action that we can take is denial.
Right. You feel he didn't meet the threshold of
Yeah.
intent of the program to begin with.
And I don't want to, waste his time or anything. I'd really like to get everybody's thoughts on like just how we're going to handle this in general, because we got to be very careful about, if you open up hey, you can be complete and then get money back after you're done. I mean, you could have people coming back that have done stuff years in the past, and put it in an application and says, all right, I'm applying for this after the fact. It doesn't matter whether it's months. It could drag into people from years. So, it's a tough one, for sure.
It seems to me like since it's already so far past, the budget is long gone.
Yeah.
If that's your form of documentation and you're already got your CFO, then
Right,
where's the middle part?
yeah. John, I know you're recused. Melody, thoughts?
My thoughts is that for either our guidelines, the first one or the third version or whatever, this applicant didn't meet either one. And so therefore I do not support moving forward.
Joel? Thoughts?
Yeah, for the reasons already stated, I don't see the need to ask for the other documentation that we're saying is missing, which I agree, the proof of actual payment to the vendors or vendors signing off that they've, been paid and what that amount is. If we ask for that, I feel like we're just kind of kicking the can down the road, and would just cause more frustration on both ends probably. So I wouldn't be in support of funding this. I think it opens a can of worms for other issues. Unfortunately, it just wasn't completed per the rules and regulations within this grant program, so.
Yeah, appreciate the input. Okay, so, correct me if I'm wrong on this, Glenn. Do we have any other discussion? Anybody got anything? Yeah, I think, so right now, the action that we have is, the application. So we have a motion for action on it. Is that action automatically an approval action, or what, how do we do this?
I didn't write it that way.
Right. Yeah, because it doesn't say, on approval of the application.
Action.
I made the motion to discuss it and take action, but I did not state what the action would be. So I would think we would need to make
You can-
another motion
Yes.
Right?
to,
Yeah.
to go for that.
Yeah, you can amend your original motion to say whatever action you want. Or anybody else can.
I thought it had to be the,
Yeah.
I would have to amend it. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so I'm going to amend my motion to discuss it and deny the application due to the fact that it was not submitted per the rules at the time that it was originally submitted in September.
Okay. So just so we're clear, the action in this motion is for denial. So when you say if you're approval of the denial, I know that's kind of a double negative, but if you're approval of the denial, you're going to say aye. And if you you actually want the application approved, then you'll say nay. So all those in favor of
Yes, a second.
oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry. Second of the amended motion. Very good. Yes. Robert would have got mad at me breaking his rules there. Okay, so with that, we'll take a vote now. Again, ayes means it's denial, nays means it's approval. So all those in favor of denial of the application say aye.
Aye.
All those in disapproving the approval, no.
Of approval.
Of approving it.
Of approving it, say nay. Okay, ayes have it. So that motion passes for denial of the application. All right, more fun stuff. All right, let's get on to some good stuff here. Discussion of and direction on supporting the development of an outdoor fitness park located at 10483 Peregrine Road. So I'll just add a little something into this. So this was one of the items we discussed with the mayor and actually with Councilman Sanders on a possible improvement to the park. And obviously, you've seen the improvements that have gone up here recently with the bathroom hopefully coming online any day now. So this is another item that the mayor asked us to discuss and give some direction to Glenn on whether this is something we'd really like to pursue or if it's something that we would not. So Glenn's going to bring up the material on it, and so you can understand what it is.
It's a little slow, so hold on.
That's okay. It's loading. Who wants to vote in approval of better Wi-Fi?
Larger bandwidth.
Yeah.
We're getting them, they're getting here, y'all.
Get in here.
Google Fiber,
We're, no, not Google Fiber, we are getting a dedicated line though, directly to City Hall.
Nice.
Yes.
Very good. That's gonna make all the difference.
Just like the end of a run too, or something? Where it's- Yeah.
Everybody's pulling off of it, especially this time of night. Everybody's streaming right now.
From college campuses to city parks and trails, we're bringing free fitness everywhere, and we're just getting started. Hi, I'm Mitch Managit, founder of the National Fitness Campaign. National Fitness Campaign was founded in 1979 when we opened the first fitness court. Redesigned for the 21st century, the fitness court is the world's best outdoor gym. Our 7-movement, 7-minute system allows you to use your own body weight to get the perfect workout. Easy or hard, it will work for you. Our goal is to build healthy communities by making outdoor fitness an essential part of people's lives so that each day is better than the last. Now more than ever before, it is vital that we move fitness outdoors to remain safe, healthy, and strong.
Michiganders, as soon as we can, we go outside, which is one of the reasons why the fitness court was such an attraction to us. What impressed us most was their basic philosophy that they want to provide world-class fitness for free. Truly, anyone can use it, no matter what your age is, no matter what your physical fitness level is, no matter what your skills are. It is very adaptable.
Thousands of certified ambassadors will be trained to deliver classes, challenges, and clinics as part of our National Fitness Campaign. New programs are bringing students outdoors across America. The Fitness Court mobile app is your gateway to enroll in these programs. Simply scan the new digital wall with your phone to access a library of free workouts designed to optimize your experience on the fitness court. Learn the moves and take challenges as we dig deep to create impact for our partners across America. This year, we are thrilled to introduce Fitness Court Public Art. Cities have the opportunity to select a local artist to design their fitness court using the power of the arts and fitness outdoors in iconic public spaces. We're proud to have helped cities of all sizes raise millions of dollars from respected sponsors to support free fitness. Wherever fitness is a priority, you can find a fitness court. We're partnering with large cities using urban movement data to map the best locations for healthy infrastructure. We're bringing fitness courts to within 10 minutes of population centers everywhere.
They provide these wraparound services that, from a city's perspective, that's what you want in a partner like this. You want it to come presented to you on a silver platter with a bow tied around it. They're one of the best partners, I think, that I personally have ever worked with.
We serve almost 1.2 million members across Michigan. And this partnership really is an opportunity for us to bring scalable, free health and wellness opportunities for our community. So I would actually invite cities and organizations, big and small, to explore the opportunity to invest in fitness courts. To be very honest with you, the feedback from different municipalities and different communities has been very positive.
We're committed to raise $150 million to bring the campaign to 1,000 cities and schools, building the largest fitness movement in the world. Join us. Let's make world-class fitness free.
All right. So now there's going to be a lot of questions. Obviously, we had a lot of questions whenever the idea was first brought. Cost, I know, is probably going to be the first thing in everybody's mind is how much does this thing cost? I think at this point, we don't have an official action on this. It's really give Glenn direction of whether we want him to pursue getting some hard data on it. The other wrinkle to this is apparently there's also a grant program going that can be applied for to help offset some of the costs.
So during the preliminary discussions, yes, potentially up to 40,000 to offset. Keep in mind that in the backup documentation, a 36-foot by 36-foot court is anticipated to be 120 to 160,000.
Okay. So then
That was the size we saw up there?
That was the smaller court. They have a bigger one, but we don't have area to be able to.
yeah, the park's actually getting filled up, which is good.
Yes, yeah.
It's actually getting used more than I've seen it used before, especially with the playground equipment. It seems to be very, very popular. So, yeah, that was one of the questions. The other discussion item we had, and again, this is something that if we want to give Glenn direction to pursue this further, is dealing with the use of it for people possibly using it for money-making purposes, as far as like, hey, I'm going to have a fitness class and I'm going to charge people and we're going to go use up the sport court all morning, and it makes it a hindrance for the general public is a concern. So we've talked about that in ways that we can limit that. And again, it's nothing solid we have as far as like, how do we do it? But it's just because right now we don't have Glenn, focused on trying to figure out how to do that. But it is a concern, right? If somebody going out there and having a CrossFit class where they're charging people and making money off the site. So
With that would be something the city would definitely work with EDC on, because it would be an ordinance or something, basically not allowing that. And so with either the police officers or code enforcement, we're getting a new code enforcement officer that actually starts on the 27th. And so with that, being able to work weekends and nights to be able to implement this or anything else, you know what I mean? Because like we don't allow dogs on leashes, without being on leashes, but they do it at the park. So we want to discourage that and ensure that people are aware of it and educated and so forth. So that would be something we would have to look at on a city aspect. How do we enforce that? Because that would have to be an enforcement through the city.
Okay. So let's get everybody's thoughts and figure out if we want to have Glenn chase this out further. Jeff?
Motion
We don't. I don't think we need a
Discussion.
Motion for
No,
discussion.
it's just a
Yeah,
discussion.
since we don't have an official action on it, this is more just direction.
I'm kind of leery of spending that amount of money on something for fitness that doesn't necessarily benefit a business, so to speak. Maybe I'm just being short-sighted here, but I don't see how this affects the economic development of the Helotes, city of Helotes. It may help bring in maybe, I don't know if somebody's gonna move here just because of that. I don't know. I don't know if we're gonna have businesses that are gonna wanna come to Helotes just because, hey, we now have a fitness park.
Right.
I don't know. That's my take on it.
Okay. Greg?
I do like the art part of it, you know, utilizing signage. I see that as a potential upswing for it. Honestly, I haven't even walked through the park to see what kind of fitness equipment we have right now. I mean,
Yeah.
There is some, isn't there? Yeah, there is fitness equipment already
it's
there.
all basically the same concept, which is using
Gravity.
your own body weight.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, there's some 26 or 27 stations out there with some of the similar style of equipment as far as the kind of exercises you can do with it.
Yeah, we have probably on the newer side about 10, you know, that are the metal ones, the green metal ones. I don't know if you've
I've seen
on
them.
that. So there's about 10, and then some were built previously that were made out of wood and so forth. That still has that same concept. They're just older, and they were put in in a previous time.
Yeah.
No, I agree with Jeff. I don't see how this would be for economic. Yeah, and to me, it's similar to the splash pad that we didn't want.
Right. John?
I'm in agreement. I don't see how this directly benefits the economics of the city. I think that's a lot of money for less than 1,300 square feet of essentially stationary things that people can exercise on, and I find it very similar to what we have now, except what we have now is actually spread out and to me much nicer. More people can participate in that, and, you know, kind of interact with it without being crowded into, you know, one specific area. So for me, I don't see how the EDC plays a part in funding this project.
Okay. My questions are going to go back to kind of our paperwork side of things, Lynn. One, where would this fit within our budget?
So if we were looking in fiscal year 2023, we do not have a line item in the budget. So we would have to pull out of reserves. And I would keep in mind, this year, we already are planning to pull out of reserves, and I want to say it was approximately 500,000 to balance this year's budget with planned expenditures. So this would be, you know, 150 additional dollars that would have to come out of reserves.
And what do we currently have in reserves?
1.4,
We-
1.7?
We were at 2, and then with the 500 out, yeah, 1.4, 1.5.
Okay.
I would also, something I'll present at the next meeting, our sales tax numbers are definitely in the last 3 months lower than what we projected, considerably. When I say lower, probably the highest point in fiscal year 2023, we were bringing in 1.2 million in taxable sales. In January, it was just under 700,000. So there's been a significant drop
And
in
it's
sales
only
tax.
increased this month to a little less than 900, like 896.
Okay.
So we may have a shortfall at the end of the year. It's still a little early to tell, but that's what we're anticipating.
And I guess in our EDC goals, missions, this would fall under, I guess, the quality of life goal.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the only thing, I mean, I'm not here to support or not support, you know,
You're right.
either one, but in the aspect of economic development, yes, part of economic development is quality of life, and other cities have put in, the ones that can afford it, you know, help with Little League courts, or, you know, baseball fields or whatever else, so it does fit in economic development aspect of it. I'm not saying it for supporting it or not, and I'm just,
It's good that it has a slot in our goals, because obviously.
yeah, there is a slot.
Yeah, if it wasn't anywhere within our goals, you know.
Why bring it,
Right.
why bring it?
My second question on going is, when do we formulate the budget for 2024?
As far as a board level, at least no later than July. We would likely start a little bit sooner. I know staff, at least by May, we're going to start looking at projections. We may have a workshop in June. And then, yeah, really start fleshing stuff out.
Okay.
Because it has to be approved by September at the latest.
Yeah, my 2 cents to put them in is, I do see the benefit from a quality of life. Obviously, healthy citizens are good citizens, you know, it's better to have a healthy, attitude, with the city. My thoughts in this is, so $120,000, assuming we didn't get a grant, you know, the whole grant part is still a little nebulous on our end. My thought in it is, there's a way we could look at it for the budget of 2024, knowing a little bit more data on our tax income, and then looking at what expenditures possibly we don't do in 2023 that we thought we were going to do, that maybe that adds to the reserves, that gives us the capability. It is, for me, it's personally hard just from a standpoint of not being somewhere in the budget, and knowing that we're already dipping into reserves and our income stream is lessening. All those are just kind of point towards like, yeah, it's like going out and buying a new car whenever you lost your job, you know, it's probably not the best idea, the thing to do. So, but I don't want to say it's a bad idea and just give up on it totally. I would like to reevaluate though when we're going through budgeting for next year. Parks had some good improvements to it. The playground's awesome, the bathroom's gonna be great, and just having water out there is awesome.
Yeah, we also added water fountains.
Yeah, the water's,
Some little barbecue pit type
Yeah.
things. So that-
Really?
Yeah.
Trying to just make it more family oriented,
Yeah.
friendly. People can come use it over the weekends, stuff like that.
Yeah.
We are looking eventually, maybe possibly a dog park. That's just
Yeah.
a thought. There's a lot of thoughts.
Yeah.
You know, going into how we.
parking. Yeah, we're hitting the parking limit, and how to
parking, how to
expand
make
that
it
parking is gonna be
increasing.
fun, because the only way to expand it is further into the disc golf, unless we figure out just another way to come in, maybe off of 1560.
Right, there might be an area
Yeah.
there, so we are looking at a lot of different things.
Yeah, and obviously with the widening of 1560, you know, it kind of comes into play too with all the construction that's going on there. So, those are my 2 cents on it. Melody?
Well, I agree with everything everybody has said here. The budget was my concern. Initially, the concern was that, and not being a line item, and having the decrease in the sales tax. And I was, so putting all of that aside, I was looking at this. It says that we could possibly qualify for one of 25 funding locations in the host state. So I was like, what typically is the population of these that do get awarded? What has been the trend? You know, are we looking at population of 10,000, population of 500,000, 1 million? What is?
So that we don't have the answer to at this time. I would point out the video said they like to select urban areas in major metropolitan areas. I don't think that we qualify for that. But the company did reach out to the city of Helotes.
So the next question is, do we have an idea of how many use our park per month? And then if you have that number, what can this company say? Oh, well, you know, we have seen a trend that it will increase, you know, what kind of traffic into your park once we, you know, you install this. So then I'm looking at, okay, maybe going down the economic development, you know, a little bit. If they can say, okay, we've seen this trend, that it will bring out outsiders, other people coming into your town that could bring in, help the sales a little bit. But is there any data like that from this company, that can say this is what we've seen?
This is all preliminary, so none of that.
So this is the first time they've done this?
This is the first time preliminary for it to come to here.
No, I understand that, but I'm saying, what is their data?
Right, we haven't reached out to ask.
They haven't
presented any of that because we didn't know if this was even an interest. If it's
Yeah.
not an interest, then not putting the staff time to
Right.
look into all of it.
So, so again, I would say, I would want that information if we move forward, but I agree that because of the lack of sales, the decrease in sales that we have, and because it's not a line item, in our budget, I wouldn't want to look at this until for at least 6 months and see how things are going. But then if we do are entertaining this, I can't say yea or nay until I understand, those other stats that I mentioned.
Joel?
I had shared some of the similar questions that have already been asked, and I agree with pretty much all of it. I guess the only additional question that I had would be, do we have any idea what this looks like with age, this park, and what type of maintenance it requires? So it looks nice in the brand new video, it looks really nice, but how does it age in the sun? And then what kind of expense do we have to maintain?
Right, the maintaining, at least the information we've received, it's basically to spray it down, and that's how you kind of clean off the mat part. I do know the metal, at least the equipment that they use, is similar to the equipment that we already have, which has aged very well. The wooden stuff hasn't aged as well.
The metal stuff has.
In our park, but the metal green ones have, and it's very low maintenance. So this is very similar to that. It is very low maintenance to maintain.
Okay.
I have
Yeah, sure.
I'm sorry, do we have an idea of how many people use our park?
No,
use
I
Placer
mean, we
AI
could
to
use
do that.
Placer.
Yeah.
That's what I would ask Nicola to use Placer to get those
He's pulling
numbers.
his finger.
It's not going very smoothly. So let's not wait on it. As I've said previously in meetings, this can be a little temperamental, so let's not wait on me.
I'm just.
Yeah.
We don't have it, but yeah, we
Yeah.
got
Needs to look at
We got
that.
time.
Okay.
Yeah, I would,
Thank you.
actually, it would be interesting to see if there's been increase lately in the park usage just from the installation of the playground equipment.
Great.
I think there is, just because I walk there and I just see usage of it going up. And the pavilions are getting used, and, so I think there's some benefit into it. Again, I think it's just not an item that we have in the budget today, but we're coming up with our 2024 budget, which leads me to my next question, Glenn. What I really, as far as anything direction from me that I would like to understand, just because it's a large amount of money, is this grant program, and understanding that more, like what are our odds? How many people are applying? How long is the grant good for? Do we have a timeline on how long to actually spend it? And are they even giving grants in 2023, or are they actually saying, no, the grant, doesn't go until 2024? So this
It is for
direction.
2023 right now,
Okay, and that, do
this
we,
current program.
is there, and I don't want to spin your wheels, I mean, is this something, I guess, if we can figure out, all right, we can figure it into our 2024 budget, and we have a good feeling that we can get this grant, is this something that we want Glenn to spend some time on?
I would say no at this time.
Okay. Greg?
I'm gonna say no.
Okay.
No,
Not for me.
no.
Okay. Yeah, so it sounds like it's tabled for now. Now, obviously when we say no to things, it's not forever, so, there may be a change in it, and especially if we get some feedback. But for now, just, we'll put a, what do they say, put a pin in it for now.
Ask like just two more questions real quick.
Sure.
Is this coming to us to put this part of the bill from city because the city has done most of all the work there at the park? Is that kind of the thought process?
That was kind of when we met, was that this was an extra enhancement, and the city has put
Right,
hundreds of
yeah,
thousands of dollars
right.
between the new fence, the restrooms, and everything else, to increase the quality, like we said, the quality of life
Right.
for the citizens, and to make Helotes very attractive for residents to come in, citizens to come in. So that was the thought process of presenting this to EDC.
So has the EDC contributed any funds to recent, I'll say within the last 3 to 5 years, things done at the park?
No.
No, okay. And I was thinking from some of the other board members had mentioned, does this going to increase or bring in folks to the city to actually spend money for economic development within the city? And I wasn't here for the water park. I don't know that discussion. I was on a couple-year hiatus there during that time. So I don't know what the cost, any of that stuff was. So please take this with a grain of salt. But it's in my opinion that if our goal is to bring people into the city, that a water park or splash pad, I say water park, it's probably a splash pad, is that right? A splash pad would have a much higher propensity to do that than a fitness park. To have people come into the city and stay or use the city businesses within here. So the price difference is probably way different than 120,000,
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
sure.
It's
But
Plus
if we're,
also the maintenance.
well, that, you're right,
Yeah,
yeah.
the maintenance of it.
But, yeah, to this, I don't think I do not see it bringing in a large number of people to the city, more so, it's really just for the citizens.
Right,
or
and the
students.
way it was presented, it was to meet the other goal of the
Right.
quality of life. It wasn't for just the economic, but, anything that we're gonna present to you doesn't meet one of your goals listed in your strategic
Right.
plan. It did, and that's the only reason it was brought
Okay.
to the main board and then brought to y'all.
Cool, thank you.
Okay. So with it, I think you got direction, Glenn, for now it's on hold. Maybe it's something, just because we have direction today, again, it's not forever, so. When it comes to budget, I'm interested in budgeting season, just to see where things stand, when we get to our budget time. If it looks like economic times are gonna continue to struggle a little bit through 2023, those reserves may be our savior in all this. And obviously, I always want to keep something in their reserves too for city purposes as well. If anything, we're here to help the city, so.
And as you're looking at budget, always remember reserves are used for a one-time expense. It's not something to be able to maintain something ongoing.
Right.
So if anything is in your budget and you're using the reserves to maintain it, it's an ongoing annual. That is not what your reserves are used for.
Right, yeah, then it should jump up into a line item in
Right.
your actual budget, yeah. Okay, any further discussion on that? All right, well, that brings us to the end of our individual consideration items, so we are adjourned, 7:55. An hour.
Wow.